Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Crime Centric. This being a show where it's about crime dramas that I watch. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about Season 3, Episode 10 of The Equalizer. A lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. This storyline reminds me of the movie, I haven't seen it in so long, but it's a Denzel Washington movie called John Q about a father willing to do whatever he can for his son. And we have a similar situation in this episode where Lauren wants to get a surgery for her daughter, Emily, but the fact of the matter is her insurance doesn't cover it because it's a highly risky surgery that no insurance company wants to kind of take the risk on in a hospital. And because Emily would, she would have to, Lauren would have to kind of pay out of pocket for it. And, it's just, she's someone that's working 2 jobs, doing everything she can because her husband had died previously. So she's doing this all on her own, taking care of a sick child and feeling like she was backed into the corner, like there was nothing else she can do. She took a couple people in the hospital hostage, trying to do whatever she can to save her daughter's life. And this whole thing blows up into an interesting circumstance because she specifically asked for Robin. She asked specifically for the Equalizer. It doesn't come up that often, but it is always fascinating to find out how people hear about Robin, how they find out about her. This particular lady, she knows about Robin because of the case earlier on in the season where the lady, her sister tried to kill her and stuff like that. You're like, oh man, that's how you found out about Robin. Because obviously this initially started off with a message, putting it out there on message boards of hey, you need my help, I'm here. I'll basically pick up where the law left off, and when you feel like you had no one else in your corner, I'll be there for you. So we kind of get, that was kind of the starting premise of this. So I guess it's always just been word of mouth has kind of gotten around about people reaching. Cause we never typically get to see how clients reach out to Robin. It's just they end up reaching out to her. I guess it's not that important of a detail. They're able to find Robin. It's just kind of an interesting little detail to be that's why Lauren knows about her, because we're specifically a very specific case from earlier this season. But either way, it comes at an interesting time because Dante and Robin are in their awkward phase right now. But obviously, Dante kind of puts all that aside because the woman in charge here, the woman who's the mother, Lauren, wants the Equalizer, so they're trying to get her into the hospital. But the guy who's in charge of the TAC team, was it Gregory, doesn't want her in there, even though it's right, we're trying to de-escalate this situation, but he wasn't willing to listen. He was being very stubborn. So Robin ended up having to call in a favor with the DA, who actually was able to pull some strings in the long run, but it turns out this is because orders are trickling down. She's not sure who at first. She's I don't know what this is all about. We ultimately find out that basically a senator or something like that, her son is one of the hostages. So she kind of brought down the force of yeah, my son's in there. You do whatever you need to. Cause that's why it seemed like Gregory was super aggro because, cause he got on Dante's case about following protocol, but it's yeah, but you were 30 minutes out and we had no idea if Lauren was going to get antsy and end up shooting or hurting someone. So, I had to kind of jump into it because you weren't here in time to do your job. But then so he was jumping on, Dante's case about protocol when he is kind of not doing that because he's arming up his TAC team to go in. But it's no, you're only supposed to do that when all negotiation options are have been tried, because you going in guns a blazing. It's the whole point is to get as many people out of this unharmed, and going in guns a blazing could lead to a disastrous situation. But luckily, DA came through. Sadly, Robin's only got an hour, but she's able to connect with Lauren, and they're trying to figure this out together. It's right, if we can get the doctor here who's going to perform the surgery, then we'll make it so that afterwards you let all the hostages go. And for her, that's all she needs. And I do love that. This is it's a moral question, it's a philosophical question, it's an ethical question, all wrapped in one, because it's right, if you're under these circumstances, what do you do? And even you get patients, and the 5 people that are being held hostage all have varying opinions about because some people side with Lauren, other people don't. Like there was that one lady and the doctor, the guy who handles like the financial aspects of it, because he's like, right, it's not my fault that the hospital wants to turn her down just because that's the protocols, that's how this works. But the senator's son being like, yeah, she's just trying to do whatever she can to save her son. Even one of the nurses being like, yeah, but this only happened because if you had just let her daughter get the surgery. And he's like, I'm not the bad guy in this situation. I'm just following like how the rules are set up. This is just how it is. It sucks that that's how like the medical system works. Even Lauren says like it is sad that it took all of this just to get her daughter the treatment she needed. Once again, the parallels, because like I said, I just know a similar story. Because isn't the John Q story based on a true story, or is it that's like? I think that's the case, but maybe I'm wrong. I like I said, I vaguely remember the movie. It's like a 2003 movie, I believe. But yeah, it's a similar circumstance in that regard, like I brought up before. But like I said, I love that it's a division amongst people. Like, because even Harry's like, yeah, I don't agree with taking hostages, but I mean, you're a mother doing whatever you can. I mean, everyone can feel that. I mean, Dante's a parent, can feel that. Even the guy in charge of the TAC team, Gregory or whatever, he's a parent too, and he's had a child that had like medical issues. I think doesn't he have like he has multiple children, I believe, and one of them has autism. So like he is sympathetic, but he's also someone that's getting pressure from above. But he's also like someone that's about doing his job, following the rules, even though he's kind of coloring outside the protocol because of like, you know, the chain of command kind of coming down on him to be like, hey, get this done, because the orders are coming up high, like from a powerful senator person to kind of make this all happen. So. And one of the hostages kind of really screwed up the situation, because first and foremost, because she had brought up the point previously, which there is validity to this argument, that it's like, right, if other patients find out, wait, you get rewarded for doing this, taking people hostage and stuff, getting what you want, who's to say other people won't do it at other hospitals? That's the rub of it. Like, there is truth to that. I don't think it could be like seen like, oh, like a mass wave of people are going to do that. But people who are desperate might feel like this might be their only move, you know? And it's like, how do you combat someone's hurt, their pain, and their desperation in a situation where someone they love and care about, especially in Lauren's case, because like, this is my child. I feel like I am failing her if I don't do this. Like, my job as a parent is to protect her, and this is my most important job, and she feels like she's failing at it. So like, how do you really combat that that raw, like, human emotion and connection in that regard? You know, it's such a complex thing of like, yes, I recognize from a logical standpoint, no, she's wrong for doing that, Lauren, but emotionally speaking, it's like we can all sympathize. We might not be all like we can be sympathetic, but maybe not necessarily empathetic. Some people could be straight up empathetic because they've been in that exact same situation. So it's a complex thing of like, right, recognizing it's wrong, but emotionally understanding it, you know? And that's where Robin's coming from. But getting back to the point, one of the hostages had a gun. She tried to shoot Lauren, but ended up, because Robin got in the way, she ended up shooting the doctor. So it's like, cool, you kind of screwed everything up, especially because Robin had the plan that, hey, at the very least, we could give ourselves more time to let the surgery get done, because Lauren's scared that, like, hey, if I let them go before the surgery's done, what's to say they won't bust in here and stop the surgery midway through? And so Robin wanted to at least bring out the senator's son that way. They could at least buy themselves more time. But because of that lady's action, she kind of screwed the pooch on this and made the situation that much worse by doing that. So they needed another doctor. So luckily Harry found a doctor, but he is a cab driver in this country. And that's also like, once again, I don't know all the like loopholes and reasons behind it. Maybe the conversation is from a, what's the word I'm looking for? Maybe the argument is like the standards in one country are higher. Like maybe the U.S. has a higher standard, you know, of what you need to be a medical professional. But I don't know, because I don't know. Like I said, it's one of those things you hear about, but I never quite fully understand, because I've never done the research into what's the justification for that. I mean, there might be a reason. Doesn't mean I have to agree with it, but maybe there's a reason that is stated for why that is. I just never understood. Like, if you're a doctor in another country, if you're a successful doctor, like if you're some like you've done some foul stuff, understandably, like, yeah, you shouldn't be able to carry your medical license over, but it doesn't mean that. The fact of the matter is, a qualified doctor, nothing with being a cab driver, but you are already have a career as but it's just because you went to another country, now like your livelihood as a doctor is taken from you, so you have to find whatever work you can. So once again, not taking away from anyone that's a cab driver. There's nothing wrong with being like, oh, like that's a bad, but it's just like, right, when you're like your medical experience and all that means nothing when you go to another country. I wonder, is that specifically a going from any other country to the U.S.? Or, I mean, I feel like that's probably applicable to every country. Like, even if you were, like, for example, you were a doctor in Japan and then you moved to, London, you'd probably be in the same circumstance. Maybe, like I said, maybe it is specifically a moving to the U.S. circumstance that kind of blocks you in that regard. But luckily, Harry was able to get that doctor to the hospital, and he started performing the surgery. The nurses backing him in that play, and the doctor, he's like, all right, I heard about what you did performing a similar surgery on a little boy. Like, I'd love to kind of be able to watch your technique as you do this, because that way it can help him in the future if he ever wants to help, because it's a very specific condition she has that needs a very specific specialist doctor to handle. Like, that's why it had to be very specific surgeons, and there are some, but others were like scattered across the U.S. One that was at least close by was already performing another surgery at the time. So ultimately, the TAP team, at least one of its members, got inside the vents and was ready to take the shot, but Robin was there talking her down, because Dante and Robin were just kind of going back and forth about how this situation should be handled. It's like, right, just give us more time and I can get. But Dante was like, it's out of time. You need to get that gun out of her hand. And Robin, wanting to listen to Dante this time, followed his approach to this and tries to talk Lauren down, because it's like, right, if you don't put that gun down and Tat comes in here, they will kill you and Emily will be without her mom. Yes, she won't ever fully know all that you've done for her, but at very least she will have you in her life, knowing you're there for her. That's what matters right now. Because if you do this, if you don't put this gun down, I get you're scared. Like, put your trust in me, because I will stay here. I will protect your daughter until that surgery is done. You can trust me on that. And the Gregory, the head of TAC here, he's listening in on this conversation, and he's the one that tells her, like, the TAC member that's in the event, it's like, don't pull the trigger, like, wait. And luckily, Lauren did give the gun to Robin, and so the situation was resolved. She's locked up, luckily the DA is going to try and like make sure that her circumstances aren't too extreme, because she thought, like, all right, I'll pay whatever amount of time in jail I have to, but it's like, no, we're going to try and help you out. But it's like, how can I ever repay you? It's like, you don't have to repay me. This is one mother helping out another. I know what it's like, that desperation. And once again, there's a lot of people involved in this situation who knows what it's like to, once again, there's a lot of parents involved in this situation. And even Harry was touched by this situation where he was like, all he could ever think about is like what he would do, like if it was like Mel in this case. It made him like love her that much more, and just made him just think like, yeah, I'm just so lucky to have you. I almost thought the conversation was going to lead towards like, maybe it made you want to have kids of your own or something like that. I could see this situation kind of making you kind of reluctant to pull the trigger on having kids, just because you're just like, man, I mean, that's actually kind of a terrible pulling the trigger, just because the state of just everything in this episode. But it was more so like, it probably make you like scared to bring a child into this world type of situation. But like, I thought that's what the conversation might have led to, like, oh, like, let's have a child of our own. Like, I mean, because I don't know where Harry and Mel stand on that, whether they want to have children of their own, or maybe it came up in the past and I just don't remember. But either way, it all worked out in the end. And even Dante and Robin are in a better place, because Dante's like, going forward, we need to make decisions as a team, and just, not just kind of like cave into what someone is like, yeah, we are a team. We work better as a team. So let's kind of keep that going forward. And she's like, so are we good? And he's like, yeah, because even he was concerned about her going to that hospital. It's like, yeah, we might have our issues, like, at the whole Randall thing. But at the end of the day, he cares for her a lot, and that's not going to change. And so that's definitely going to be, it's nice to see that relationship has been pretty quickly repaired. And so once again, what becomes of that Randall situation, we'll have to wait and see, but there's no way they're going to leave that just like hanging out there, and not kind of come back to it. So it's a scary, dire situation that luckily ends with a somewhat happy ending. Obviously, there's some complications there, but overall, like, for Lauren, it's like whatever price I got to pay, my daughter's okay. That's all that matters. So that all worked out beautifully. And even the doctor who was, he's actually getting like his position kind of like he's going to be welcomed at the hospital because of what he was able to do. So that's my point too. Like, I guess you have to cut through a lot of red tape to just kind of like hurry that along. Like, the fact is, I think like I feel like a doctor not being able to just kind of be able to do that on their own, they probably have to have extenuating circumstances that immediately allows their license in another country to kind of fully carry over into another type of. I don't know. Like I said, I don't know all the red tape and the stipulations behind those situations. It seems wild to me, but once again, I probably don't agree with it. But maybe there's a reason why that's there. Like I said, I just don't know it. Another side of this episode is I love that Delilah is trying to make gumbo, and like the moment she's pulling a recipe off of Bon Appetit, which I'm assuming that's referencing like the YouTube channel Bon Appetit. I'm sure they probably have a website too, but it's like, wait, what? And like Vi looks so disgusted by that. It's like, no, I'm gonna teach you, because this is about Delilah learning about her heritage, obviously knowing like their family stems from Louisiana, so she wanted to make gumbo, and Vi takes her to a place that's very important to her, but the person who runs it died and sad like a year ago, and her son Nelson is running, and a lot of the food has changed into like vegan options because it's the only way he could keep the place afloat, because a lot of their mom's recipes died. Well, I don't know if he has any siblings or not, but at the very least, like his mom died with all her recipes, because this restaurant has been like in their family for generations. It's about like 100 years or something like that. And so for it to kind of end like that, and he had to find another way to kind of keep the business afloat, especially because a lot of the clientele left because a lot of his mom's recipes died with her. But Vi was luckily there. Like, she knows this place well enough because she actually has a special connection with it. She used to come here all the time with her father, but that's why she stopped coming. Because even Robin talks about it later. It's like, yeah, they stopped coming because Delilah's grandfather, Vi's father, died, and the place brought up too many memories, and it made it harder to come back here. But at the end of the day, she recognizes, like, right, there's some sad memories, but there's also some good memories associated with it. And obviously making the gumbo, and once again, the significance of, like, every bit of the ingredients that make it what it is, and the significance of what it represents. Because it's like, right, America is a melting pot, and that's so physically represented by a gumbo itself. So I just love the beautiful metaphor for it all. And I even love that line with Robin at the end where she was like, right, we should kind of visit, not just for the gumbo, but also to kind of reconnect with the community, kind of touch more on our roots that, we don't always kind of focus on like we should. So, but all that was kind of immediately kind of cut off by a somber note, because we have the end where Delilah's father has filed for sole custody of Delilah. So I'm assuming maybe the entire next episode is going to be about that, or maybe Robin's going to have a job, like there's going to be a client that comes into play at the same time she has to deal with all that, and that's probably going to complicate that. I mean, I'm so curious to see how much of the series story is going to revolve around that, because also Robin's got to keep it hush hush what she does. I mean, she has more higher powered friends backing her corner to kind of make stuff happen. So she's not in the official capacity. Obviously she has like the DA backing her, but even then it's like, that's still like super unofficial, because Robin didn't want to pull the trigger on being something official or whatever. So it's going to be interesting to see what the fallout of that situation is ultimately going to be, and especially the situation that puts Delilah in, because like she loves both of her parents, but she recognizes what her mom does, the good that her mom does, and yes, she was kind of forced to lie to her dad about it, but it's also like, I can't let anything jeopardize what mom does, the good that does. Yeah, I get mixed up in some of it, sadly, but also it's like kind of being caught between, like, that's not a situation, it's not like Robin's going to be like, oh, I'm going to try and push for full custody. Robin's probably going to push back and be like, no, let's keep this middle ground that we've kept before. Like, this is what Delilah's known for a while, and us shifting that up is going to complicate things. I mean, especially because Delilah's not going to be too happy with her dad, him like pulling this, so I don't think she knew about him aiming for full custody. I think Vi knew, but I don't think Delilah did. So I think that's kind of a lot, you know, and I'm sure she kind of also, sadly, you know, she's also going to internalize that. Like, it might not just be her dad she's mad at. She might even blame herself. It's like, oh, it's my fault that mom's kind of put in this complicated position and stuff. So either way, it's definitely going to be interesting to see where all this ends up taking us going forward into the next episode. But really, that's all I want to talk about. Till the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and good